When you walk in, you see a portrait. It's done Venetian style. The frame is not a normal frame. It is actually based on the profile of the Cobra attack helicopter gunship used in the West Bank and in Gaza Strip. The male gaze, as they speak about it, as Derrida would speak about it, is not looking at a sexualized image, but an image of a body now blown apart on the other wall. So when I see the weepy eyes looking at this, it's rightful to be weeping, but is it weeping in order to control the way I feel about something? And that wall is more like painted in another fashion, is done in what they call encaustic or wax. And it's like bits of flesh, but it's bits of flesh painted on top of fragments of what they call the kufiya. The kufiya is the official headdress of the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. It is a woman that is possibly Palestinian who's taken her life and possibly others with her. Now, this is a very difficult piece because I always tell people it's not, and that is not necessarily a portrait of W, though it is, but it's weeping. But I'm trying to say that this work, sometimes they make art, you say art, you make art to express yourself. Well, sometimes I feel that it's necessary for me to make art to describe where I live. And then most uncomfortable places, I think art has the capacity to do that, to describe the most uncomfortable place that I could ever be. Because I have the luxury and privilege to do that. Whereas this person in the West Bank perhaps would not have. This is not just a random assortment of bits. This mapping was taken from B'Tselem, which is actually an Israeli human rights organization that documents atrocities against the Palestinians. And this the West Bank this is the mapping of the West Bank according to how they see the entire area being ethnically cleansed by real estate development. In the voice of the first woman Sri Lankan bomber, suicide bomber, who talks about, I was invisible while I live, while I'll be visible in my death in the fire that consumes you. There is something so powerful about this kind of voice that it's impossible to hear until it begins to happen. And at the same time, I look toward James Baldwin in Everybody's Protest novel, where he talks about sentimentality being the ultimate mask of cruelty. And then I have a feeling about where I sit as a human being within this. When I look at render, I have been rendered by events that are so tragic that yet I must convey in some shape or form, and hence this room. I'm talking about a world now that has transformed because maybe some groups have understood the nature of sentimentality to the degree to not only to put on the mask, but to mask it so carefully that I fall in line with it. And this is a piece about my resistance to that. I've been put in a position where I would think Palestinian is equivalent to terrorist, and now I see it equivalent to territory, and the last, a hopeless situation, where acts of desperation and hopelessness is the equivalent world instead of an act. And this is the terrifying reality that I live in. So my attempt with render was to put this into some shape or form.